Welcome to a tale unlike any other. I call this story The Heir's Hidden Test, a gripping journey of secrets, deception, and discovery. Imagine inheriting an empire only to uncover its darkest truths. What would you do if everything your family stood for was at risk? This isn't just about wealth or power. It's about legacy. Stay tuned, because this story will keep you questioning everything you thought you knew. Gabriel Linton stood alone in the vast office that now belonged to him. The room was filled with reminders of his father's achievements, framed awards, photos of dignitaries shaking his hand, and panoramic images of the famous Linton Paradise Islands. These islands, dotted across some of the world's most exotic locations, were known for their luxurious escapes and crystal-clear waters. His father, Victor Linton, had built the empire from the ground up, turning each island into a haven of luxury. Now, with Victor gone, the entire legacy was Gabriel's to uphold. As Gabriel traced his fingers along the polished mahogany desk, he felt a knot of anxiety in his stomach. His father had always been a figure of strength, a man whose vision and relentless work ethic turned dreams into reality. Gabriel admired him deeply, but he couldn't help but feel a pang of self-doubt. Could he ever live up to that? Could he be the leader his father had been? Gabriel had spent years watching his father manage Linton Enterprises, but watching from the sidelines was far different from sitting in the driver's seat. The weight of expectations seemed unbearable. Gabriel felt as if he'd been handed a torch that burned too brightly, too intensely for him to hold. He recalled the conversations he'd had with his father over the years, often at this very desk. Victor would tell him about the importance of integrity, honesty, and a deep respect for the people who kept the islands running. He'd share stories of the early years when the first Linton Island, Solara, was nothing more than a barren stretch of sand and palm trees. Victor had seen potential in the desolate space, and through dedication and vision, he transformed it into a thriving paradise. But Gabriel couldn't shake the feeling that he was unprepared to take on such a monumental legacy. Seeking clarity, Gabriel decided to visit Solara, the first island his father had developed. He hoped that standing on the same sand, walking among the same palm trees that had sparked his father's dreams, might bring him the sense of purpose he needed. So he packed lightly, instructing his team that he'd be away for a few days. He wanted time alone, away from the formalities and obligations of corporate life. Arriving by boat, Gabriel was struck by Solara's beauty, just as his father had been. The vibrant greenery and sparkling waters stretched out endlessly, offering a tranquility that felt almost surreal. As he walked through the island's main resort, Gabriel observed the employees with a newfound perspective. He saw chefs wrapping up their shifts in the open-air kitchen, cleaning staff tidying the beach chairs, and front desk personnel saying their goodbyes to guests. They seemed to work tirelessly, yet each carried a reserved warmth, as if they were protecting something sacred. Gabriel watched them, realizing for the first time that they were the ones who kept his father's dream alive every day. The island wasn't just about luxury accommodations or breathtaking views. It was a living, breathing community. While watching the staff at the end of the day, Gabriel felt a sudden, bold idea take shape. If he truly wanted to understand what kept the island running, he would need to immerse himself within it, not as the son of Victor Linton, but as an anonymous worker. Only then, he thought, could he gain a real understanding of the employees' day-to-day lives, of their struggles and triumphs. His father had always valued integrity and honesty. Perhaps this undercover approach would be a way for him to honor those values while gaining insight into the operations of the island. Gabriel began to plan his approach, deciding that he would take on a modest position in the island's maintenance crew. It was the perfect role to keep him out of the spotlight and allow him to move around unnoticed. To his surprise, he felt a flicker of excitement at the thought of starting from the ground up. If his father could turn a barren island into a luxury paradise, surely Gabriel could manage this temporary role. But he would keep his true identity a secret, knowing that even the slightest hint of his real status could ruin the experiment. Returning to the mainland, Gabriel contacted a few trusted advisors and selected managers to oversee the other islands and hotels in his absence. He told them he'd be on a special project and would be unreachable for several weeks. Each of these advisors had been handpicked by his father, and Gabriel knew he could count on them to maintain the company's operations smoothly. So Lara would be his sole focus, as he believed it would provide him with a unique insight into the larger issues that might be brewing across the family empire. The following week, Gabriel returned to Solara, this time dressed in simple, practical clothing. He chose a new identity, Lucas Hayes. Lucas was a quiet, hard-working man from a small town who wanted to make a life in paradise. As Lucas, Gabriel was ready to work as just another cog in the machine. He was assigned to a small, no-frills room in the workers' quarters, a far cry from the luxury villas he'd been accustomed to. It was humbling, yet refreshing. As he lay in the simple bed that first night, he felt a sense of nervous anticipation. He knew he was about to uncover things his father never mentioned, things he might not be prepared for. But one thing was certain. Whatever he discovered in the coming weeks would change his life, and the Linton family legacy forever. Gabriel, now Lucas, awoke to the sound of the ocean waves lapping against the shore, a calming rhythm that seemed to welcome him to his new life. His room, though modest, offered a view of the early morning light dancing on the water, casting a golden glow over the island. As he pulled on his maintenance uniform, he felt a thrill of anticipation. For the first time in his life, he wasn't the son of Victor Linton or the inheritor of an empire. He was simply Lucas, the new guy in maintenance. Lucas arrived at the maintenance station, where a seasoned worker named Raul greeted him. Raul was in his late 50s, with graying hair and callous hands, the kind of man who had been part of the island's fabric for decades. Raul gave him a rundown of the day's tasks: repairing beach cabanas, checking the water systems, and trimming the lush vegetation that made Solara look like a natural oasis. As they moved through the island, Raul shared snippets of island history, painting a picture of Solara's evolution over the years. For the first time, Gabriel felt he was learning about his family's legacy not from boardroom presentations, but from those who lived it every day. During breaks, Gabriel carefully observed his fellow employees. There was Maria, a housekeeper who seemed to know every guest by name and greeted each with a warm smile. Omar, a young server who had moved from a nearby village, was known for his cheerful energy despite working long hours in the heat. These people weren't just employees. They were the heart of Solara. Gabriel realized that their loyalty and dedication went beyond their job descriptions. They took pride in Solara's reputation as a paradise for guests. Yet he noticed that beneath their smiles, there was a hint of fatigue, a heaviness they had well. As the days passed, Gabriel's work routine became second nature, and he found himself blending into the island's daily rhythms. Each morning, he would join Raul and a few others to set up the beach for guests, ensuring that every detail was perfect. He noticed small things: the rusted hinges on some cabanas, the patches in the linens, and the barely functional fans in the staff quarters. These were details that guests would never notice, but they hinted at budget cuts and declining standards. Raul explained that things had changed in recent years, especially since the old man started pulling back from daily operations. One afternoon, while fixing a water pipe near the guest villas, Gabriel overheard two managers talking in low voices. They mentioned cutting corners and higher-ups, hinting at budget pressures that were affecting staff resources and guest services. Gabriel's heart sank. His father had always prided himself on the uncompromising quality and service at Linton Properties. The idea that corners were being cut to save costs seemed to undermine everything the Linton name stood for. Gabriel realized that this was just the beginning. There was likely more to uncover. Later that evening, Gabriel joined a group of staff members for a casual dinner by the shore. Under the soft glow of string lights, he listened as the employees shared stories about their work. A maintenance worker complained about having to use substandard materials for repairs, while a chef grumbled about the reduced quality of the seafood supply. They laughed it off, But Gabriel could sense a quiet frustration simmering beneath the surface. It was clear that these weren't isolated issues. The standards on Solara were slowly eroding. Gabriel also noticed something else during these dinners, a sense of camaraderie among the staff that reminded him of a close-knit family. Despite their challenges, they looked out for each other, sharing tips to make their jobs easier and supporting one another during difficult shifts. This bond was something his father had always valued in the company, a spirit of unity that transcended the roles each person played. For Gabriel, it was both heartening and heartbreaking. He was proud of their resilience, yet saddened that they had to endure such conditions. In his private moments, Gabriel wrestled with a growing sense of responsibility. The employees didn't know him as the future owner of the island, yet he felt a duty to protect their well-being and restore the values his father had instilled. He knew he couldn't act on his findings immediately, but every encounter with the staff strengthened his resolve to make things right. Gabriel started documenting the issues he saw, taking note of every detail that might help him when he eventually revealed his true identity. One day, Gabriel overheard Raul talking to a junior worker about the island's past. Raul reminisced about how Victor Linton had been a hands-on leader, personally checking in on his employees and ensuring they had what they needed to excel. Raul spoke with admiration, describing Victor's dedication to the island and his insistence on quality. It pained Gabriel to realize how far Solara had drifted from those principles. He began to understand that this undercover mission wasn't just about gathering facts. It was about restoring the soul of Solara. The longer Gabriel stayed, the more he began to see signs of deeper problems within the management. He'd occasionally catch the new island director, Philip, in tense phone calls, his face drawn and his voice strained. Philip had joined shortly before Gabriel's father fell ill, and from what Gabriel gathered, Philip was known for his cost-cutting tactics and strict policies. It became clear that Philip's leadership style was far from the caring, people-centered approach his father had championed. Gabriel's respect for the staff grew each day as he witnessed their dedication. He watched as they faced daily challenges with minimal support, keeping the island pristine for guests while dealing with limited resources. Gabriel felt increasingly protective of them and frustrated with the management's neglect. His father's words about honesty and integrity echoed in his mind. This wasn't the empire Victor Linton had built, and Gabriel knew he couldn't ignore what he was seeing. As Gabriel settled into the rhythm of his role, he realized that his journey had only just begun. He was starting to piece together a troubling picture, one that suggested more than just budget issues or mismanagement. A culture of secrecy and compromise seemed to have crept into the very core of Solara's operations. And yet, despite the challenges, he sensed the potential for change. Gabriel knew that when the time came, he would need to confront these issues directly, but for now, he would continue watching, learning, and gathering the information he needed to save his father's legacy. Weeks had passed since Gabriel had first arrived on Solara as Lucas, and the deeper he delved into his role, the more unsettling discoveries he made. Each day seemed to bring new insights into the hidden workings of the island, and with every passing shift, Gabriel's understanding of the real problems on Solara grew clearer. From strained conversations to neglected maintenance, he saw that the island was suffering from more than just budget cuts. Beneath the surface, something larger and more alarming was unfolding. One afternoon, Gabriel was assigned to repair a leaking pipe near the guest villas. While working, he overheard Philip, the new island director, in a heated discussion on the phone. Philip's voice was low but tense, and Gabriel could just make out phrases like diverting funds and keeping it quiet. At first, Gabriel thought he might have misheard, but as the conversation continued, his heart sank. Philip was not only aware of the cost-cutting, but seemed actively involved in siphoning money for reasons Gabriel couldn't yet understand. Shaken by what he'd overheard, Gabriel knew he needed more information before making any moves. He reached out to Raul, who had become his mentor and guide on the island, hoping the seasoned maintenance worker could provide some context. Raul shared stories of the island's earlier days, explaining how the standards and the work environment had shifted since Philip took over. The old man, Mr. Victor, He cared about people, Raoul confided, unaware of Gabriel's true identity. But now, it's all numbers and profit, no matter the cost to us. Gabriel felt a pang of guilt. These were people who had dedicated their lives to his family's legacy, only to be neglected under the new management. Determined to gather evidence, Gabriel started documenting suspicious activities. He took note of inventory shortages, receipts that didn't match up, and the ways certain expenses seemed to be cut without any logical reason. To his shock, he uncovered discrepancies in basic supplies, like cleaning materials and kitchen ingredients, replaced with cheaper alternatives. For Gabriel, this went beyond poor management. It felt like an intentional effort to drain resources and pocket the difference. The idea that someone would exploit his father's cherished islands for personal gain was infuriating. One night, while heading back to his room after an exhausting shift, Gabriel saw a flickering light in the island's administrative office. Intrigued, he cautiously approached the door and found it slightly ajar. Peeking inside, he spotted Philip, bent over his desk, scrutinizing documents that he quickly stuffed into a drawer when footsteps echoed down the hall. Gabriel slipped away just in time, but his suspicion grew. What could Philip be hiding that was worth the secrecy, and why did he seem so on edge? Unable to ignore the growing sense of corruption, Gabriel decided to investigate further. He approached a trusted security guard named Luis, known among the staff for his discretion and loyalty. Without revealing his true identity, Gabriel questioned Luis about recent changes and odd activities he might have noticed. Luis hesitated, but eventually revealed that Philip had been holding closed-door meetings with external consultants after hours. These consultants, Luis explained, were always guarded and left no trace of their involvement in official records. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together, and Gabriel felt a surge of anger mixed with determination. Gabriel began spending late nights analyzing the island's operational routines, trying to understand where the cracks in the system had formed. He noticed how maintenance schedules were altered and how the quality of services began to drop subtly but consistently. Employees were being given impossible workloads, and standards were slipping as a result. Gabriel realized that Philip was deliberately undermining the island's quality to cut costs while shifting funds into other accounts, possibly offshore. The knowledge weighed heavily on Gabriel, who felt personally responsible for letting such a situation develop within his family's empire. One morning, as Gabriel was mulling over his findings, he overheard a group of employees discussing how the island's profits had been unusually low for months. According to them, Philip had blamed market conditions. But Gabriel knew better. Profits were likely being skimmed off the top, and Philip was covering his tracks by blaming economic shifts. The staff, bound by their loyalty and trust in the Linton name, believed Philip's excuses. Gabriel realized how fragile this trust was and how devastating it would be for them if the truth came out. Feeling the weight of his responsibility grow, Gabriel knew he couldn't confront Philip without undeniable proof. He decided to take matters into his own hands and set up a plan to access the office at night. Carefully timing his approach, Gabriel slipped into the administrative office after hours, his heart pounding with every step. As he searched through the drawers and cabinets, he found files detailing questionable transactions, along with contracts signed by Philip with outside parties that Gabriel had never heard of. He took photographs of everything he could find, his mind racing with the implications of each document. Gabriel's suspicions were confirmed. Philip was using Solara as his personal playground, siphoning funds and making deals that compromised the island's future. Gabriel felt a mixture of rage and sorrow. Solara was more than just a business asset. It was his father's first dream, a place built with purpose and integrity. To see it reduced to a pawn in Philip's schemes felt like a betrayal of everything his father had stood for. Gabriel knew that he would need to reveal his findings, but he still had to figure out the best way to do so without jeopardizing the island or its employees. Leaving the office that night, Gabriel understood the depth of the challenge before him. He couldn't let Solara or any other Linton property fall further into corruption. As he walked back to his room under the moonlit sky, he felt a renewed sense of determination. This wasn't just about saving Solara. It was about restoring his family's legacy and ensuring that his father's values endured. He knew he would need allies to expose Philip, but finding them without risking his cover would be his next difficult task. Gabriel awoke the next morning with a newfound determination. His mission had shifted. He was no longer just observing the island's operations. He was preparing for a confrontation. He knew that he couldn't do it alone, especially with Philip's influence over the island's management. If he was going to expose the corruption without risking his position, he would need allies he could trust, people who shared his respect for the Linton legacy. But who among the staff would be willing to stand up against Philip? Gabriel thought of Raul, the maintenance veteran who had seen the island evolve from a modest retreat into a luxury destination. Raul's loyalty to the Linton family was unwavering, and Gabriel sensed that the older man might be willing to help if he knew the truth. That afternoon, as they repaired a dock damaged in a recent storm, Gabriel subtly steered their conversation toward the issues plaguing the island. Raul was hesitant at first, but he eventually revealed that he, too, had noticed Philip's harsh cost-cutting and underhanded management style. When Gabriel cautiously hinted that there might be a bigger scheme at play, Raul fell silent, his face clouded with worry. Gabriel knew he'd planted a seed of doubt, but he would need more evidence before Raul would fully commit. Later that evening, Gabriel sought out Luis, the security guard he had spoken to before. Gabriel knew Luis's dedication to the staff's safety and well-being was genuine, and he hoped the guard would help if the situation grew riskier. Under the cover of night, Gabriel approached Luis near the employee housing, carefully choosing his words. He expressed concern about Philip's mysterious late-night meetings and the external consultants who appeared unannounced. Luis admitted he, too, had felt something was off but didn't want to get involved without solid proof. Gabriel shared that he'd found financial irregularities that couldn't be ignored, urging Luis to keep a close eye on any unusual activity around the administrative office. Luis agreed, cautioning Gabriel to be discreet, as Philip seemed increasingly suspicious of anyone who questioned his methods. As Gabriel's network of allies began to grow, he recognized that gaining their trust was only part of his strategy. He needed a way to gather more concrete evidence against Philip without putting his new friends at risk. Knowing that the resort's financials held the key to Philip's schemes, Gabriel reached out to Anna, a young accountant who handled the day-to-day bookkeeping. Anna was known for her meticulous attention to detail, and though she was relatively new to the team, Gabriel had observed her frustration with recent financial cuts. He approached her under the pretense of needing help understanding payroll discrepancies in the maintenance department, hoping it would lead to a deeper conversation about the resort's finances. During their discussion, Anna hesitated but eventually revealed that she had noticed multiple inconsistencies in the accounting records. She mentioned that some transactions appeared to be rerouted through unfamiliar accounts. Yet any time she questioned them, Philip brushed off her concerns, calling it standard corporate practice. Gabriel could see that Anna felt uneasy, but she wasn't yet ready to go against her superior. Gently, he encouraged her to document everything and assured her that her efforts could make a significant difference. Anna's eyes reflected a mixture of fear and resolve, and Gabriel knew he had gained another quiet ally. With Raul, Luis, and now Anna discreetly aiding his efforts, Gabriel began to feel a sense of momentum. The corruption on Solara ran deeper than he had initially realized, but he was no longer alone in his mission. He met with each of his allies individually, careful to avoid drawing suspicion. He coached them on how to document any questionable activities without arousing Philip's attention. Raul kept an eye on maintenance budgets and material orders. Luis tracked the comings and goings of the consultants, and Anna continued to log every financial inconsistency she found. The three of them operated in silence, each one driven by a shared commitment to preserve the integrity of Solara. As Gabriel worked closely with his allies, he felt a growing responsibility for the people around him. He had come to the island hoping to gain insight into the family business, but now he felt compelled to protect the livelihood and dignity of its employees. His father had once told him that true leadership wasn't about power, it was about service. These words resonated with him now more than ever as he considered the sacrifices his allies were making to help him in his quest. One night, while reviewing some documents Raul had provided, Gabriel's heart raced as he uncovered proof of an offshore account tied to Philip's name. The account had received multiple large transfers over the past year, amounts that corresponded with the shortfalls in the island's budget. It was undeniable evidence of embezzlement. Gabriel knew he couldn't hold back any longer. He had to confront Philip. However, he understood that a direct confrontation would be risky, especially with Philip's connections and influence over the island's operations. As dawn broke, Gabriel gathered his allies in a secluded part of the beach, away from prying eyes. He showed them the proof he had gathered, detailing how Philip had betrayed their trust and the values of the Linton family. Each ally reacted with a mixture of shock and anger, and Gabriel sensed a new unity among them. Together, they devised a plan to confront Philip subtly, using their combined evidence as leverage. They would give him the chance to resign quietly, protecting the island's reputation and ensuring the employees' livelihoods were safe. Gabriel's heart was heavy as he prepared for the confrontation. He knew that, as Lucas, he held no official power, but with the support of his loyal allies and the undeniable evidence of corruption, he felt ready to reclaim his father's legacy. This wasn't just about exposing wrongdoing. It was about preserving the spirit of Solara and the dignity of those who had devoted their lives to it. The day had finally come. Gabriel, still disguised as Lucas, felt the weight of his dual identity pressing down on him as he prepared to confront Philip. With the evidence meticulously gathered by his allies, he was ready to expose the corruption poisoning Solara. The plan was simple but risky. Gabriel would approach Philip under the guise of Lucas and, with support from Raul, Luis, and Anna, press him to step down. Gabriel knew that the stakes were high. One wrong move could jeopardize everything he and his allies had worked for. Gabriel approached Philip's office just before noon, hoping to catch him off guard. Raul and Luis lingered nearby, pretending to work on maintenance tasks but ready to intervene if needed. Anna waited in the administrative office, prepared to act as a witness if the situation escalated. Gabriel took a deep breath and knocked on Philip's door, determined to keep his composure. Philip opened the door, surprised to see Lucas standing there. His expression quickly turned to irritation. "What is it, Lucas?" "I'm busy," he snapped, barely concealing his annoyance. Ignoring the hostility, Gabriel stepped inside and closed the door behind him, his tone calm but firm. "We need to talk, Philip. I know what's been happening here on Solara. I know about the offshore accounts, the cost-cutting that's more about your profit than the island's well-being." Philip's face paled, but he quickly regained his composure, his mouth twisting into a sneer. "And who exactly do you think you are to accuse me of such things?" Philip challenged, his tone dripping with contempt. "You're just a maintenance worker. You wouldn't understand the first thing about managing an island like this." Gabriel's pulse quickened, but he held his ground. "I may be just a worker, but I've seen the impact of your management firsthand. You've stolen from this island, from the people who make it what it is. And I'm not the only one who knows." As if on cue, Raul and Luis entered the office, their expressions resolute. They stood behind Gabriel, silently lending him their support. Philip's face tightened as he realized the gravity of the situation. Gabriel continued, his voice unwavering. "We have documented evidence of every transaction, every cut, every bribe. You can either step down quietly, or we can take this to the authorities." For a brief moment, Philip looked genuinely rattled, but he quickly masked his unease. With a dismissive laugh, he leaned back in his chair, trying to maintain control. "And you really think anyone would believe the word of a few disgruntled workers over mine? I have connections, Lucas, far beyond this island." Gabriel felt a surge of anger, but kept his voice steady. "Perhaps they would believe us if they knew who I really am." With that, Gabriel straightened, dropping his disguise. "I'm Gabriel Linton, Victor Linton's son. This island and the entire Linton legacy are my responsibility. and I won't allow you to destroy what my father built." Philip's face turned a shade paler, the realization of Gabriel's true identity sinking in. He looked between Gabriel, Raul, and Luis, clearly calculating his next move. Gabriel pressed on. "You have until the end of the day to leave Solara. If you refuse, the evidence we've gathered will be handed over to the authorities, and I'll make sure your reputation is as ruined as this island would have been if you continued." Philip sat in stunned silence, the usual confidence drained from his face. Gabriel could see the weight of defeat settle in his eyes as Philip realized he had lost control of the situation. After a long silence, Philip finally stood up, his face twisted in barely contained rage. "Fine," he spat. "I'll go. But don't think this is over. The people I work with, they won't take kindly to being cut off." With that, he gathered a few items from his desk, glared at Gabriel, and stormed out of the office. Gabriel watched him leave, feeling a rush of relief mixed with lingering tension. Philip's threat echoed in his mind, but he pushed it aside for now. The first step had been taken, so Lara was free from Philip's grasp. Once Philip had gone, Gabriel turned to Raul and Luis, a grateful smile breaking through his usual composure. "Thank you both. I couldn't have done this without your support." Raul clapped him on the shoulder, his eyes gleaming with pride. "Your father would be proud, Gabriel. You've shown us what it means to lead with integrity." Luis nodded in agreement, adding, "It's good to see the Linton name restored to what it should be." Gabriel felt a surge of pride and relief, knowing that he had upheld his father's values. Later that day, Gabriel met with Anna to review the financial records and begin restoring the island's budget. With Philip gone, they could finally correct the misappropriations and reinvest in the staff and resources that had been neglected. Anna showed Gabriel the adjustments she'd already started making, her excitement evident. "We can finally replace the outdated equipment, improve staff accommodations, and bring in the quality supplies that Solar deserves," she said with a smile. Gabriel nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. His father's dream was back in safe hands, and he was determined to honor that legacy. As evening fell, Gabriel gathered the staff together by the beach to share the news. He stood before them, no longer as Lucas but as Gabriel Linton, the new head of the Linton legacy. Taking a deep breath, he addressed the crowd. "I came here as one of you to see the heart of Solara, to understand what makes this place more than just an island. I've seen firsthand the dedication and hard work each of you brings, and I'm deeply grateful. My father believed that Solar was more than a business. It was a community, and it's my commitment to you that we will bring Solara back to its true spirit." The staff erupted in applause, relief, and hope evident on their faces. Gabriel looked out over the crowd, feeling an overwhelming sense of unity and pride. Raul, Luis, Anna, and all the others who had supported him during this journey stood by his side, their loyalty unwavering. Gabriel knew there would be challenges ahead, but with the strength of his team and the legacy of his father to guide him, he felt ready to face whatever might come. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the island in a warm glow, Gabriel felt the weight of responsibility settle over him in a new way. He was no longer just an observer or an outsider. Solara was his to protect, to nurture, and to rebuild. And with his newfound allies, he knew that together, they could create a paradise worthy of the Linton name. With Philip gone, the real work of rebuilding Solar began. Gabriel knew that while removing Philip had been a significant victory, the damage he'd done to the island ran deep. The once thriving atmosphere felt worn and tired, as though the island itself had been drained of its spirit. Gabriel felt the weight of responsibility grow heavier as he walked through the now quiet paths, noticing the wear on the facilities, the strained faces of the employees, and the hesitation in their greetings. His task was not just about restoring the island's operations, but also about rebuilding trust and morale. Gabriel decided to begin with the staff. He arranged a meeting to openly address the changes that would take place. Standing before them as their leader for the first time, he felt both pride and humility. "I know things have been difficult lately," he began, his voice steady but sincere. Solara has always been a place of pride for our family, and I can't tell you how sorry I am for what you've all endured under Philip's management. My father built this island with a vision of unity, respect, and integrity. Together, we will bring that vision back to life." The employees listened intently, some nodding, others with cautious expressions. Gabriel knew it would take time to fully earn their trust, but this was a start. To put his words into action, Gabriel immediately focused on restoring the island's infrastructure. He directed funds back into maintenance and upgrades, prioritizing the areas that had been most neglected under Philip's tenure. Raul, ever dedicated to his role, coordinated with Gabriel to replace old equipment and repair deteriorating facilities. Watching Raul work with renewed vigor, Gabriel felt a sense of satisfaction. The island, piece by piece, was coming back to life. The employees began to notice these changes, too, and a renewed energy rippled through the staff. Small improvements in their work environment seemed to lift their spirits, as if they could finally feel hopeful about Solara's future. One day, Gabriel met with Anna to review the financial records and discuss fairer wages for the employees. Under Philip, salaries had been cut, benefits reduced, and workload increased. "It's time to change that," Gabriel stated firmly, and Anna nodded, already having prepared calculations to redistribute funds for raises and improve benefits. "I think this will make a real difference," Anna said, smiling. Gabriel saw her passion and commitment and knew she'd become a crucial ally in keeping Solara's finances transparent. They implemented the changes gradually, ensuring every member of the team saw the positive impact firsthand. Beyond the structural and financial improvements, Gabriel understood that healing Solara required a personal touch. He started walking around the island more frequently, engaging directly with staff members, listening to their concerns, and showing genuine appreciation for their hard work. He remembered the advice his father had given him. People don't just work for a business. They work for people they believe in. Gabriel could see how Philip's neglect had eroded that belief, and he was determined to restore it. His open approach surprised many of the staff, who were used to managers who stayed behind closed doors. Slowly but surely, the employees warmed up to him, and Gabriel felt a stronger sense of community take root. As the days passed, Gabriel noticed the small signs of change everywhere. Staff members were smiling more, greeting each other with more warmth, and the strained atmosphere seemed to ease. The guests, too, began to feel the difference. They noticed the renewed attentiveness of the staff and the refreshed facilities, adding to the island's appeal. Positive feedback flowed in, and reservations picked up, signaling that Solara was once again becoming a true luxury destination. Gabriel felt a renewed sense of pride, knowing that he was honoring his father's legacy while creating his own path as a leader. One evening, Gabriel hosted a dinner for the entire team, a gesture to thank them for their hard work and loyalty. It was a rare moment when the staff could relax, laugh, and enjoy the island they'd helped rebuild. Gabriel stood to give a brief toast, holding up his glass. "To Solara, to all of you, and to the future we're building together," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. As they raised their glasses, Gabriel looked around at the faces of his team, feeling a deep connection to each of them. The bonds they had formed through this challenging period felt unbreakable, and he knew that Solara would be stronger for it. As the night drew on, Gabriel found himself reflecting on the journey so far. He had started this adventure with doubts, unsure of his abilities and the weight of his father's legacy. Now, standing on the island that had once seemed like a distant responsibility, he felt a profound sense of purpose. Solara was not just a luxury resort or a family asset. It was a testament to the values his father had instilled in him. And through the dedication and unity of his team, those values were now alive, thriving, and stronger than ever. As the transformation of Solara progressed, Gabriel sensed that the island was finally returning to its former glory. The changes had taken root, not just in the structures and systems, but also in the spirit of the people who worked there. Solara was thriving again, filled with the same vitality and warmth that his father had dreamed of when he first built it. Gabriel felt a deep satisfaction, but knew there was one more step he needed to take to complete his journey. He had to reconnect Solara to the community around it and ensure its future was secure for generations to come. Gabriel had been working on a plan to partner with local communities, believing that Solara should be more than just an isolated paradise for the wealthy. His father had always valued the surrounding region, frequently collaborating with local artisans, farmers, and businesses to support the community. But under Philip's rule, these connections had been severed in favor of cheaper, impersonal suppliers. Gabriel set out to change that, reaching out to nearby villages, inviting local vendors to supply the island, and organizing events that welcomed the community back to Solara's shores. The first of these events was a cultural festival, a day for staff, guests, and local residents to come together in celebration. There were stalls with handmade crafts, traditional food, and performances by local musicians and dancers. Gabriel personally welcomed the community members as they arrived, watching as the island filled with laughter, music, and the vibrant colors of local art. Guests mingled with the residents and the staff joined in the festivities, a newfound pride evident on their faces. The event was a huge success, reigniting the connection between Solara and the region. Gabriel could see the joy and gratitude in the locals' eyes, and it filled him with a sense of fulfillment he hadn't expected. In the days that followed, Gabriel noticed the ripple effect of the festival. New vendors reached out, eager to contribute to Solara's rebirth. The guests left rave reviews, praising the island's authenticity and the warmth they felt from the staff. Gabriel realized that Solara's success was no longer just a personal mission. It was a shared vision, supported by the staff, guests, and the local community. And as this network grew, Gabriel felt more confident that the island would continue to thrive, grounded in the values his father had cherished. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Gabriel stood on the beach, reflecting on how far Solara had come. Raul, Luis, and Anna joined him, their expressions mirroring his sense of accomplishment. Raul, looking out at the sea, placed a hand on Gabriel's shoulder. "Your father would be proud," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Gabriel nodded, feeling the depth of those words. He had finally lived up to his father's legacy, not by merely following in his footsteps, but by creating his own path, built on the same foundations of integrity and respect. In the days following the festival, Gabriel began preparing to step back from his role on Solara, trusting that the changes he'd implemented would continue to flourish. He promoted Raul to head of maintenance, Luis to oversee island security, and Anna to manage the finances, ensuring that each department was led by someone who shared his commitment to Solara's values. With the staff and local partnerships firmly in place, Gabriel felt confident that the island was in good hands, guided by the very people who had helped him uncover the truth and restore its former glory. On his final day as Lucas, Gabriel gathered the staff one last time, ready to formally reveal his identity to everyone who had worked alongside him. Standing before the team, he took a deep breath. "Many of you know me as Lucas, but my real name is Gabriel Linton," he began, watching the surprise and understanding spread across their faces. "I came here to learn, to see Solara as it truly is, and to understand the legacy my father left behind. Thanks to each of you, I have found that legacy, and together, we built something stronger than I ever could have imagined." The staff responded with applause, some with tears in their eyes, grateful for the leader Gabriel had proven himself to be. As Gabriel boarded the boat back to the mainland, he looked out at Solara one last time. He felt a profound sense of peace and pride. Solara was no longer just an asset or a business venture. It was a legacy, one that he had saved, restored, and set on a path to thrive for generations. He knew that no matter where his journey took him, Solara would always be a part of him, a place where he had discovered the true meaning of leadership, loyalty, and family. With the setting sun casting a golden glow over the island, Gabriel made a silent vow to his father. He would continue to uphold the values of the Linton name, no matter what challenges lay ahead. As the boat sailed into the horizon, he looked forward with confidence, ready to face the future, knowing that his father's legacy was alive and well. Returning to the mainland, Gabriel felt the impact of his time on Solara echoing in every thought. He had seen the transformation not only of the island, but of himself. Now, he faced the next step, applying everything he had learned to the broader Linton enterprise. The family's luxurious properties spanned several islands and resorts, each operating with the same high standards his father had once envisioned. Yet, Gabriel knew that those ideals had been diluted over time. Philip's corruption wasn't an isolated incident. It was a symptom of a deeper problem, a drift from the values his father had built the business on. Gabriel was determined to bring those values back, stronger and more integrated than ever. As he reconnected with the family board members, Gabriel saw their initial skepticism. He had been the quiet one, never too involved in the family's affairs, content with a distant role. But now, his demeanor was different, steadier, filled with a confidence they hadn't seen before. Gabriel outlined a plan that combined his father's original principles with a new focus on community involvement, sustainable practices, and ethical transparency. Each property, he explained, should reflect the heart of the region it resides in, not just as a place of luxury, but as a partner in the local ecosystem. The board members listened, some nodding, others exchanging glances, intrigued by his vision. Gabriel's first step was to implement a training program inspired by his experiences on Solara. He wanted managers across every property to gain a genuine understanding of daily operations, just as he had by working undercover. The initiative, called the Legacy Program, required each executive to spend time working side by side with staff in various roles. Gabriel believed this approach would help them see the business from the ground up, fostering a respect for the hard work and commitment that made each property successful. The program faced some resistance initially, especially from those who had grown comfortable in their positions. But Gabriel's conviction won many over. Those who embraced the program returned with stories of connection, empathy, and newfound dedication. To further integrate his vision, Gabriel began establishing partnerships with local businesses, artisans, and suppliers, much like he had on Solara. He initiated collaborations with regional farmers to supply fresh produce and invited local artists to showcase their work at each resort, creating an authentic cultural connection for guests. The properties were no longer just destinations, but vibrant extensions of the communities around them. Guests noticed the difference too, often commenting on the unique character of each location and the sense of belonging they felt when visiting. Gabriel's approach wasn't just reviving the business. It was redefining luxury as an experience of meaningful connection. Despite the progress, Gabriel faced opposition from some shareholders who felt the new direction was too radical. They argued that guests came for luxury, not lessons in local culture, and worried that these changes would cut into profits. But Gabriel stood firm, presenting financial data and guest feedback, showing that these initiatives enhanced both guest satisfaction and profitability. He demonstrated how ethical, locally connected practices were not just good values. They were smart business. Gradually, as the positive outcomes became clear, the board began to rally behind him, impressed by the tangible success of his vision. Gabriel felt a profound sense of accomplishment as he saw the results unfold across the Linton properties. Employees were more engaged, guests felt enriched by their experiences, and the communities around each resort saw real economic and social benefits. But what gratified him most was the fulfillment of his father's dream in a way that honored both the past and the future. The Linton legacy was now one of shared growth and respect, a model that placed people and purpose above mere profit. In one of the final steps of his transformation, Gabriel created a foundation in his father's name, dedicated to supporting education and environmental conservation in the regions where their properties were located. The foundation sponsored scholarships, funded conservation programs, and provided resources to local schools and hospitals. Gabriel knew that his family's success came with a responsibility to give back, to ensure that future generations could benefit from the opportunities his family had built. This foundation, he hoped, would be the true legacy his father would have been proud of, a testament to the values of integrity, community, and sustainability. Standing on the foundation of his family's name, Gabriel realized he had finally found his purpose. No longer just an heir, he was now a leader with a vision of his own. He understood that true luxury was about more than elegance or wealth. It was about creating a positive impact, fostering connection, and leaving behind something greater than oneself. And as he looked out at the future, Gabriel felt a profound gratitude, not only for his father's legacy, but for the journey that had shown him his own path forward. As Gabriel's vision for the Linton enterprise took root, he soon encountered the reality of leading such a sweeping transformation. While some of the board members and property managers had fully embraced the legacy program, others resisted, seeing Gabriel's approach as a disruption to their familiar way of doing business. Rumors started circulating that Gabriel's new strategies were costly, unrealistic, or even naive. Gabriel knew these whispers were inevitable, but they tested his patience and resilience. Despite his frustrations, he focused on communicating openly, meeting with the most skeptical members and addressing their concerns. He listened patiently to their objections, recognizing that winning them over would require more than just ideas. It would require proof that his vision worked. As part of his strategy, Gabriel decided to hold an event showcasing the successes achieved under his new model, inviting key board members, stakeholders, and loyal guests to Solara. The event highlighted the improvements in guest satisfaction, the strengthened ties with local communities, and the environmental initiatives that had become a hallmark of each property. Raul, Anna, and Luis shared their experiences, speaking passionately about how the changes had revitalized both the resort and the staff's morale. Guests who had been part of the cultural events shared their positive feedback, emphasizing the unique, immersive quality of their experiences. By the end of the event, Gabriel noticed a shift in the board's attitude. Even the most resistant members were beginning to see the tangible benefits of his approach. Despite this progress, Gabriel faced a new challenge when one of the resorts, located on a remote island, encountered a natural disaster. A hurricane had swept through the region, causing extensive damage to the resort and the surrounding community. Gabriel's immediate concern was for the safety of the staff and residents, so he coordinated emergency aid and ensured that everyone was accounted for. But as the full extent of the damage became clear, the financial implications loomed. The cost of rebuilding was significant, and some board members questioned whether it was worth the investment, suggesting they cut their losses and sell the property. Determined to uphold his vision, Gabriel refused to abandon the resort or the community that depended on it. He quickly organized a relief fund, drawing from the foundation he had established, and reached out to local and international partners for additional support. Gabriel personally visited the island, rallying the staff and community members, showing them that he was committed to rebuilding not only the resort, but their homes and livelihoods. The residents and staff responded with gratitude and resilience, inspired by Gabriel's presence and unwavering support. Together, they began the long process of recovery, knowing that Gabriel's commitment was more than words. It was a promise he was determined to keep. Gabriel's efforts soon drew attention from the media, which covered the story of the Linton Enterprise's dedication to rebuilding the island. News outlets praised the company's ethical approach and genuine concern for its employees and local residents. The positive publicity brought in an unexpected wave of support, including donations from loyal guests and even other luxury brands who admired Gabriel's principles. What could have been a financial setback turned into a moment of triumph, reinforcing the Linton legacy as one of resilience, integrity, and compassion. Gabriel realized that this experience, though challenging, had proven the strength of his new model. His approach wasn't just a business strategy. It was a way to build lasting relationships and trust, even in the face of adversity. By the time the resort reopened, it was more than just a restored property. It had become a symbol of hope and resilience for everyone involved. The staff, residents, and guests all felt a renewed sense of loyalty and pride, and the board, once skeptical, had become fully supportive of Gabriel's vision. The resort's reopening was celebrated with a ceremony attended by the staff, local community, and even the families who had once doubted the worth of rebuilding. Gabriel's heartfelt speech emphasized the power of unity, the importance of standing by one's principles, and the impact of a shared commitment. The applause that followed felt like a personal victory, a sign that his father's dream had truly evolved into something even greater. As Gabriel looked around at the faces of those he had come to know and care for deeply, he felt a profound sense of accomplishment and fulfillment. The journey had been fraught with challenges, but each obstacle had reinforced his purpose and solidified his leadership. Solara and the other properties were no longer just luxury destinations. They were a testament to what was possible when values and vision guided every decision. And as he gazed at the horizon, Gabriel felt ready to take the Linton legacy into the future, with his own stamp of courage and resilience firmly in place. As Gabriel settled into his role as the head of the Linton enterprise, he took a moment to reflect on the transformation he had spearheaded. The vision he had crafted, built from the lessons of his time on Solara, had not only revived the business, but had also forged a new identity for the family's legacy. Each property now operated with a renewed focus on integrity, community, and sustainability, principles that Gabriel realized had always been at the core of his father's values. He understood now that his father's true legacy was not in the islands or the luxury, but in the impact they left on people's lives. This newfound understanding drove Gabriel to consider the future and how he could ensure that the Linton legacy would continue to thrive in the years to come. One of Gabriel's final projects was the creation of a mentorship program that would encourage young, local talent to develop careers within the Linton properties. Inspired by his own journey, he wanted others to have the opportunity to experience and shape the company from the ground up. Our future leaders should know the heart of the business, not just its numbers, he explained to the board during a meeting. The mentorship program would offer hands-on training, scholarships for education, and a pathway for growth within the company. This program became widely popular, drawing applicants who were inspired by Gabriel's leadership and the values he had restored to the Linton name. As the program took off, Gabriel invited key partners, community leaders, and family members to Solara for an official ceremony to commemorate the company's new direction. The gathering was held at sunset, with the soft hues of the sky mirroring the serenity that Gabriel felt within. Standing before his family, friends, and colleagues, Gabriel spoke of the journey that had brought them all together, from the challenges he had faced to the resilience and growth that followed. Our family's legacy is not in wealth or status, he said, his voice steady and full of conviction. It is in the impact we leave, in the lives we touch, and in the trust we build. Solara is more than an island. It's a symbol of what we can achieve when we stand by our values. The response was overwhelming, with applause and heartfelt words from all corners of the gathering. Gabriel felt a deep sense of pride and gratitude as he mingled with guests afterward, listening to their stories of how the Linton properties had affected them. Staff members shared how the new programs had inspired them. Guests spoke of unforgettable experiences, and local leaders expressed appreciation for the company's commitment to supporting the community. Gabriel knew that this was his father's dream truly realized, a network of places that brought happiness, supported growth, and enriched the lives of all who crossed their paths. As the event wound down, Gabriel found himself alone by the water's edge, watching the waves under the moonlight. Raul approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You've done something remarkable, Gabriel. Your father would have been so proud." Gabriel smiled, looking out at the ocean that had been both a challenge and a source of inspiration. He knew that while the path hadn't been easy, it had been worth every step. Solara and the other properties now stood as beacons of hope and integrity, ready to carry the Linton legacy forward. In the following months, Gabriel gradually stepped back from daily operations, confident in the leaders he had nurtured and the systems he had put in place. His focus turned toward exploring new projects, knowing he had left the Linton name in capable hands. With Solara as the crown jewel of the enterprise, he felt at peace with his journey. He had come to the islands to understand his father's legacy, and in the process, he had built one of his own. Gabriel knew that his story, and that of the Linton Empire, was far from over. It was just the beginning of a legacy that would continue to grow, rooted in the values he had worked so hard to restore. Enjoyed the story? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Share your thoughts in the comments and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next thrilling episode. See you in our next video. Take care